In the quiet town of Milford, Ohio, where the streets wound lazily through fields of corn and old maple trees, Sarah Jenkins had spent the last 20 years under the hoods of cars. Her garage, Jenkins Auto Repair, sat on the edge of Main Street, a weathered building with a faded red sign that creaked in the wind. The air inside always smelled of oil and metal, mixed with the faint scent of coffee from the pot she kept brewing all day. Sarah was 58 now, with silver streaks in her brown hair tied back in a ponytail, and hands calloused from wrenches and grease. She moved slowly these days, not because she was in a hurry, but because life had taught her to take her time. Every morning, Sarah arrived at dawn. She'd flip on the lights, the fluorescent bulbs humming softly as they warmed up. The garage was her world, a single bay with tools hanging neatly on pegboards, shelves lined with parts, and a small office in the back where she kept her records. She'd start with the radio on low, tuned to classic country stations, songs about lost loves and open roads filling the space. Patsy Cline's voice would drift through the air as Sarah sipped her coffee, black and strong, staring out the open door at the rising sun painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges. Sarah had learned the trade from her father, back when she was a girl helping him in their backyard shed. After high school, she'd married Tom, a kind man with a laugh that could fill a room, and together they'd opened the garage. But Tom had passed 10 years ago, a heart attack sudden and cruel, leaving Sarah to run things alone. She fixed engines, changed tires, and listened to her customers' stories. Folks in Milford trusted her. She was honest, charged fair prices, and always had a smile, even on tough days. Lately, though, the days felt heavier. Business had slowed. New chain shops in the bigger towns nearby offered quicker service with fancy computers, drawing away the younger crowd. Sarah's regulars were aging like hero farmers with old trucks, widows with sedans that needed tune-ups. Her back ached from bending over engines, and her knees protested when she knelt to check brakes. Bills piled up in the office drawer, rent for the building, supplies, and the property taxes that seemed to climb every year. She thought about selling the place, maybe retiring to a small house by the lake where she could fish and read books. But the garage was all she had left of Tom, of their dreams. Letting go felt like losing him all over again. One crisp autumn morning, as leaves swirled in the breeze outside, Sarah was working on Mrs. Harlan's old Ford pickup. The engine had a knock, something in the valves, and she was methodically removing bolts, her movements deliberate and unhurried. The radio played Johnny Cash, his deep voice rumbling about walking the line. Sarah wiped sweat from her brow with a rag, pausing to stretch her back. She glanced at the clock at 10 o'clock and wondered if anyone else would come in today. The town was quiet, the only sound the distant hum of a tractor in the fields. Then, she heard it, the low rumble of an approaching vehicle, tires crunching on the gravel driveway. Sarah straightened up, peering out. A black SUV pulled up, sleek and government issue, with tinted windows that reflected the morning light. It stopped smoothly, no squeaks or rattles, which made her curious. Most folks who came to her had problems you could hear from a block away. The doors opened, and out stepped 4 men. They were tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in casual clothes, jeans, boots, and jackets, but something about them screamed military. Their postures were straight, movements efficient, eyes scanning the surroundings like they were assessing threats. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't used to strangers like this in Milford. The leader, a man in his 40s with close-cropped hair and a scar along his jaw, approached first. "Ma'am," he said, his voice firm but polite, "are you Sarah Jenkins?" She nodded, wiping her hands on her overalls. "That's me. What can I do for you? Your ride doesn't look like it needs fixing." He smiled faintly, glancing back at his companions. "No, ma'am, we're not here for the car. My name's Lieutenant Mark Reynolds, U.S. Navy SEALs. These are my team, Petty Officer Jake Harlan, Chief Eric Torres, and Specialist Liam Grand." Sarah's brow furrowed. Navy SEALs? In her garage? Milford was miles from any base, any ocean. She felt a flicker of unease, like the world had tilted just a bit. "SEALs? What brings you all the way out here?" Reynolds hesitated, his expression softening. "It's about your husband, Tom. We served with him, back in the day." Sarah froze. Tom had been in the Navy, sure, but he'd never talked much about it. He'd enlisted young, done his time, and come home to build a life with her. Tom was a mechanic in the Navy, she said slowly, fixed helicopters or something. But SEALs? He never mentioned that. The men exchanged glances. Jake Harlan, the youngest with kind blue eyes, stepped forward. Ma'am, Tom was more than that. He was part of our support team during some classified ops in the 90s. Saved a lot of lives, including many. Well, my father's. Actually, Dad was on a mission gone wrong. Chopper down in hostile territory. Tom got it running under fire. Got everyone out. Sarah leaned against the workbench, her mind reeling. Tom had always downplayed his service, said it was just fixing things. She'd seen the medals in a box in the attic, but he brushed them off. He never told me, she whispered, a lump forming in her throat. Reynolds nodded. Tom was humble like that. We only learned about you recently, through some old records, when we heard he passed, and that you'd been running this place alone. We wanted to come pay our respects and help, if we can. Help? Sarah looked around her garage, at the peeling paint on the walls, the stack of unpaid invoices, the problem she'd been wrestling with of the slow business, the aches, the loneliness. Suddenly felt exposed. I appreciate that, she said, her voice steady but soft, but I'm managing. Always have. Torres, a sturdy man with a gentle smile, spoke up. Ma'am, we've got skills, not just combat. Jake here is a certified mechanic learned from his dad. We could tune up some things around here, if you'd let us. Sarah paused, considering. Pride told her to say no, but something in their eyes, earnest, respectful, tugged at her. She thought of Tom, how he'd have welcomed old friends. All right, she said finally, but only if you tell me more about him, the stories he never shared. They agreed, and just like that, the garage came alive in a way it hadn't in years. The men rolled up their sleeves, grabbing tools from the pegboard. Jake slid under Mrs. Harlan's truck beside Sarah, pointing out a worn gasket she'd missed. See here? That's your knock, he said. Together, they replaced it, their hands moving in sync. As they worked, stories flowed like oil from an engine. Reynolds talked about a night in the desert, Tom jury-rigging a vehicle with duct tape and wire while bullets whizzed overhead. He was calm as could be, Reynolds said, chuckling, singing some old tune to keep us steady. Eric Torres shared how Tom had mentored him, a young recruit scared of the unknown, taught me to breathe slow, focus on the fix, saved my sanity more than once. Liam Grant, the quiet one, added, he talked about you, Sarah, said you were the reason he came home. Strongest person he knew. Sarah listened, tools pausing in her hands. Emotions welled up. Pride in Tom, sorrow for the secrets he'd kept to protect her, warmth from these men who carried pieces of him. The garage felt less empty, the air thicker with memories. Outside, the wind rustled leaves, a natural pause in the conversation, letting the words sink in. By afternoon, they'd fixed not just the truck but other things too. They patched a leak in the roof, organized the shelves, even painted the sign out front. Sarah brewed fresh coffee, and they sat on folding chairs in the bay, sharing sandwiches from the diner down the street. Laughter echoed off the walls, a sound Sarah had missed. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the floor, Reynolds pulled out a small box from his jacket. We brought this for you, he said. Inside was a folded American flag, the one from Tom's funeral, but with it, a medal Sarah hadn't seen, a silver star, gleaming under the lights. He earned this, Reynolds explained, for that chopper fix. We petitioned to have it recognized, thought you should have it. Tears blurred Sarah's vision. She held the medal, cool and heavy, feeling the weight of Tom's unspoken heroism. The twist of these men appearing like ghosts from his pasta hadn't been a disruption, but a bridge to healing. Her problem, the garage's uncertain future, seemed smaller now. With their help, she saw possibilities. Maybe hire Jake part-time, turn the place into something that honored Tom. Thank you, she whispered, voice thick, for bringing him back to me, even just for today. The men stood, hugging her one by one. Your family now, Jake said. Call if you need us. As the SUV pulled away, gravel crunching softly, Sarah stood in the doorway, watching the taillights fade. The garage smelled of fresh paint and coffee, the radio still humming faintly. She clutched the medal, a quiet resolve settling in her chest. She wouldn't sell, she'd keep fixing cars, keep the stories alive. Tom was with her, in the tools, in the memories, in the unexpected friends who'd shown up. That night, as stars dotted the Ohio sky, Sarah locked up slowly, her steps lighter. Life moved on, one repair at a time, and she was ready for whatever came next.